A German documentary that showed slaves being traded by Islamic State via an office in a Turkish city. And more on that later this hour. Syrian soldiers have been advancing on the Jobar neighborhood of Damascus, which is held by Islamic militants. Artis Murad Gazdiev reports from the battlefield.
Jobar, the closest battleground to Damascus.
What you're about to see is a testament to the brutality and ferocity of the Syrian civil war. Every house, every street, every block is bitterly contested and fought over. Often, when the dust settles, there's not a lot left of whatever it is that was won. And this is happening on a nationwide scale.
And for Islamist rebels, Jobar is the key to the city.
Jobar is incredibly important for them. Through here they keep trying to break into Damascus, which they also regularly shell from here.
The state of it should make clear how much blood both sides have shed for this district, and the contest continues every day.
Getting around Jobar is a challenge in and of itself. You can never tell what piece of rubble or what window a sniper might be hiding in. So a lot of the movement around here happens through places like these, through trenches and tunnels which dot the city.
Every so often we'd come across a bunker. Inside, Syrian troops kept vigil and exchanged small arms fire with rebels.
This is the main street, and we have to watch for vehicles and car bombs so they don't blow up near us.
This is where they keep trying to break through. It's like a game of cat and mouse, but in the end, the cat always wins.
While war and fighting rage in Jobar itself, it's also happening underground. Wherever rebels go, they dig massive tunnel networks like this one. This is just one entrance. There are dozens and dozens around Jobar itself. And of course it complicates street fighting even further, because the Syrian military has to clear vast, really vast tunnel networks like these, and they stretch for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers below ground.
The rebels in Jobar don't belong to any single group. Streets and even individual houses, we're told, are held by different outfits, Islamist groups of various flavors. What complicates any effort to drive them out is the cramped space.
While there are plenty of vehicles, heavy armor like this tank, it is a liability in urban warfare, urban combat, because space is so limited and attackers could be hiding anywhere. So the tanks are parked here, seeing little action.
Nevertheless, recent government gains have forced rebels to pull up to 1,000 fighters out of Jobar to reinforce other areas.
After the liberation of Malaj Sultan Air Base, it's gotten easier. We effectively cut eastern Ghouta in two, and so cut their supply routes.
Cut or not, rebels say they won't give up their only foothold in the capital, especially considering that the fate of Damascus may well be decided in this scarred ruin. Murad Gazdiev, RT, from Jobar, Syria.
An Amnesty International report claims Russian airstrikes have hit more than a dozen civilian objects in Syria. The human rights group also claims Moscow refuses to admit to causing civilian deaths.
Till now, Russia has not acknowledged a single death of a single civilian. We would like it to acknowledge what it has done and then to adhere to international humanitarian law, the wars of law, by giving the greatest protection possible to civilians. We would like to see it set up independent, thorough investigations into its attacks, the ones in our report and many others, in which civilians have been killed and civilian objects have been damaged. We'd like them to pay compensation for the people who've been affected.
The human rights group claims Russia's bombing campaign has killed 200 civilians in at least 25 attacks. As for the report sources, Amnesty says it's researched all cases remotely based on witnesses interviewed over the phone or on the internet. They also took statements from human rights activists and reviewed videos and photos of the alleged airstrikes. Well, earlier I was joined by Roman Kosarev to discuss these accusations.
Amnesty reviewed the air bombardment of a market in the rebel-held town of Ariha, that's in the Intl province, and that killed 49 people. Now, here's how the airstrike was reported at the time. We looked at the news on the airstrike published by two UK-based human rights groups. Now, the first outlet suggests that the airstrike was carried out by, quote, regime forces. Now, that means Syrian army. Now, that, as the second human rights group, refers to the airstrike as probably Russian. Now, the question about who could be behind the airstrike was also raised at the U.S. State Department briefing the day after the bombardment.
There are several reports that the Russian jets have targeted marketplace in Syrian Idlib province, which resulted tens of civilian deaths. I wonder what State Department thinks about this.
So we note these reports. We cannot confirm details on that.
The U.S. is not aware who is bombing where in the province.
What I would say is if you have questions on Russian airstrikes, you should speak to the Russian government.
Now, another case investigated by Amnesty International is a blast in the town of Sarmin, which reportedly destroyed a field hospital and killed 13 people. Now, a video surfaced reportedly capturing the blast, and we will show you that a little bit later on. But it is important to mention now that Russia's defense ministry did report on an airstrike in the area and specify the ammunition that was used to carry it out. It was Cab 500. It also provided footage of what the aftermath of such a blast looks like, and it's a very large mushroom-shaped cloud, as you can see, but the explosion of the blast at the hospital, which is blamed on Russia, looks completely different. Now, this video purportedly shows the blast, and the moment of the blast is clearly seen in the footage to the right of the cameraman. He falls, but then he jumps up and continues filming as the small cloud of dust clears, which is hard to believe considering 500 kilos of TNT exploded right next to him. So the cameraman then enters what's claimed to be the hospital hit, and by the way, the hospital belongs to the little-known Syrian American Medical Society, which on its website shows the building completely destroyed, yet we see the hospital clearly still standing. Now, here is another video posted on YouTube a year ago that shows the hospital under construction, and this is the screenshot from the video on the left. And the Russian Defense Ministry's aerial image of what it says is the hospital. We see a similar dome-shaped structure next to the building on both images. We also see a wall or a fence positioned in a similar way. So some very serious accusations against Russia, yet like we said in the very beginning, all of these things have been investigated and researched remotely.
Now, after a short break, I'll look at why former oil tycoon Mikhail Khodorkovsky is wanted man in Russia again.